Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another 30-minute growth session where in 2024, we are focusing on 52 weeks, 52 amazing authors. And today I am joined by Devin W. Moore, author of Devin Speaks Up. Hi, Devin.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, awesome. So before we get into your book, I want to learn, I want our audience to learn more about you, your background, and then lastly, why you decided to write Devin Speaks Up, and then we'll talk about the book.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Devin Moore. I'm from, little quick background, I'm from Long Island, New York. I am currently a college sophomore at the University of Maryland, where I'm studying psychology. And I'm just someone who wants to help others. My background in entrepreneurship heavily lies in anti-bullying. When I was 14 years old, I went through a lot of more specifically racist bullying. It was cyber, it was physical, it was verbal. There was a lot of hate happening in that time in that middle school. But though that happened, I realized that I wanted to help others through it. I knew I wasn't the only one who had a bullying story to share and to let others really know about and speak up with it. So that led me to founding Race to Speak Up, an anti-bullying organization that focuses on educating youth about bullying prevention, as well as how to be upstanders. And so we mainly do that through our Race to Speak Up Against Bullying workshops, where we're going into schools, organizations, companies, and we're speaking to their audience about the best ways to combat or lessen this bullying epidemic. Beyond that, I am a very proud author of the book that Dr. Lisa has right now. It's really exciting. I'm glad that she has. Yeah. So, but yeah, so author of Devin Speaks Up, and that's a children's anti-bullying book. So it's sharing my personal bullying story. It's talking about speaking up to someone you trust, and it's talking about embracing our beautiful differences. That's why the cover has people from students from all different walks of life, or kids from all different walks of life. It's to show how we as humans, everyone, are from all different walks of life. Like we're not just one thing, we're a variety of different things. And there's beauty within that. So all of my message is dealing with empowering each other, anti-bullying, and just unity.
Oh, you have just unpacked just a lot. So I will tell you that one of the things that I enjoy about this huge melting pot of diverse individuals in the US and abroad is that we are a lot more similar than we think, but we allow things, right? Our gender, our our race, our sexual orientation, all these things, how much money we have, how much money we appear to have. We allow all these things to hold us hostage into thinking that we're someone that we're not really. I was just recently reading a book that talked about, and we'll just use Facebook as an example, how individuals will be on Facebook and they'll have on Louis Vuitton and Gucci and Tiffany jewelry and all these things, but inside they're hurting. They're struggling financially, but on the outside, to us looking, scrolling through Facebook, we like they really got it going on when they don't, because people do a great job of putting on this mask and making us think that all is well when it's not. So before we get into the book, how is college life? Sophomore, psychology major?
Um, it's a lot of work. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think it's really hard, but I'm getting through it because I have my study groups. I study a lot, always on top of getting homework done, and especially early too, because my weekends need to be for me. I always make sure I have that mental health break, like this weekend too. Um, my classes are really well. I think it's very interesting being a psychology major and learning so many different things. And also just like I guess for future stuff, I'm looking to become a psychologist, but we'll really see how that goes. I know things change. I know things change, but as of right now, I'd say it's also pretty fun. just meeting so many new people and learning so many different things, even beyond just psychology. So I think I would say I've had a pretty good experience so far.
Awesome. So I did not have an opportunity to go away to school. I went to a predominantly white institution, business school. And so when my kids had the opportunity to go away to college, I was kind of living vicariously through them. And our youngest daughter, she said she was going to be a psychologist too, but she wound up getting a degree in healthcare management. I don't know why, maybe because that's my background. But these are like the best years of your life. And one of the things that I love about your generation, which just I wish others that were older would get a clue. Self-care is important. So you talk about having your weekends to yourself, right? Because the business of self-care is really the most important business that we should be participating in. Because if you're not good for you, how can you help others? So I'm rooting for you to become a psychologist because there are so many kids, especially kids that look like you, that are going through so much and they need you. They need you to be the voice that maybe they don't have the strength and the courage to be. So
You make really good point. Oh, yes.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you're reminding me of how like it's so important for someone to hear something or learn from someone who not only for example, if it's like me as a Black person speaking to another Black person or another person of color, that's important. And also someone who's closer in age too. That's just what I wanted to say. It helps a lot because it's like, okay, yeah, you really can relate to me. Or, yeah, I really do want to listen to you because you actually are much closer to my age. You get what it feels like.
Absolutely. Now, I will say though that there is wisdom in connecting with those above you as well as below your age, right? Because wisdom is not necessarily tied to age. There are some individuals who are wise beyond their years and they're very young. So for me, as a young 50-year-old woman, I love to connect with individuals that are in their 20s because you guys have so much to offer. You are fearless, right? You're not going to let employers treat you any kind of way. You don't have a problem with using your voice. And we need you for the future because like my mother's generation, as a kid, we were taught be seen and not heard, right? And then here I am as the next generation raising parents, raising kids, and I'm like, they really need to have a voice because your voice is powerful. So let's talk a little bit about the book because when I first set out to do 52 authors, 52 weeks, I went on faith that authors would answer the call. I didn't know who the authors were going to be, what their backgrounds were, how old they were. I just knew I wanted to interview other authors because I felt like in 52 weeks, we could tell 52 unique stories and at a minimum help 52 people. And I can say that I'm the first person. Every book that I've read in some shape, form, or fashion has really opened my eyes. So when I was reading Devin Speaks Up, the first thing that you kind of talk about is your brother, right? So you like to spend time with your brother, DeAndre. So was DeAndre older than you or younger than you?
DeAndre is younger than me. He's 2 years younger than me.
And so you guys are real close?
Yeah, I'd say we're pretty close. Yeah. We always, I guess ever since we was younger, we would just kind of like, just always be around each other and like hang out, play games and stuff. So I wanted to make sure I incorporated that sense of family in there. And overall, just showing a sense of a Black family too, like just straight up a Black family in my book, especially since when I was younger, I didn't really see diverse books. I didn't really see books just in general that were by authors that looked like me and were about kids or people that looked like me in any sense. And unfortunately, I think that was probably just mainly because I did go to a predominantly white school. But even then, we still have people of color, people of different abilities, people of different sexualities, religions, gender and gender expression, going to these private institutions or private schools. But unfortunately, because it's not that diverse, it's just it it leads to a lack of inclusion, it almost seems like. And so I wanted to make sure that I give other students a book where they can really relate to. That's another thing about the front cover. When you look at it, a kid, there's been multiple kids who have said this in my presence or not in my presence. They've said, "Oh, Devin, I saw someone who on the front cover looks like me, or looks like my best friend, looks like my cousin, or my whoever in my life." And then it also encouraged them to be like, okay, so Devin speaks up. So what's Devin speaking up about? And then just open the book and see.
Oh, I love it. And the first thing that I saw that really warmed my heart was that you did show, a Black family. And as a child who grew up in a two-parent household until the age I was of 9, and then my parents divorcing, some people think that all households are led by single mothers, all Black households are led by single mothers or single fathers, and that's not true. A lot of us grow up with a two-parent household, or if we don't have a two-parent household, we got a community of family members, friends that pitch in and help support us. Now, I will admit there are some kids in all communities that don't have that support, but we do have it. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. I'm also glad that I don't want to talk about everything in the book because we want people to buy the book. We want people to give the books to their kids and have an open and honest conversation about what they may be experiencing. But you dispelled the myth that Black folks don't know how to swim in the book because that's included in the book. And so I think that we as people have a lot of assumptions that we make about others that are not true. But when you take the time to learn about individuals, you'll learn that we're a lot alike than we think. I will tell you that for a long time, I heard this term white privilege, right? And so I thought, this is naive of me, that most white people had it easy in life. And as I get older and connect, and I have a lot of white friends, right? So as I connect with them and learn about, really get a deeper relationship and a deeper understanding, I've learned that they have struggled to get where they are today, and some of them continue to struggle. But there's this perception of people that we have these biases that we really need to stop doing because it's really holding us back from developing long life relationships and friendships and just having a network of people you can call. As a healthcare professional, I have individuals across the globe that I can reach out to via cell phone. And that's when you know that you're moving in the right direction, right? So it's not money that helps you move into the right direction, it's relationships. So tell us a little bit about bullying, because I know you're very passionate about bullying. So tell us about the aspect of bullying.
Okay, yeah, of course. So bullying is unwanted, aggressive, intentional, and repetitive behavior. So a lot of words within just that one term. But under that, there's a variety of different types of bullying. There's cyber, physical bullying, there's verbal, there's even social bullying, racial, there's so many different types. I'm just listing out a couple of different things. But then it's also like, okay, well, what about the age? There's bullying within youth, in schools, but then there's also workplace bullying. There's kind of a variety of different parts of bullying. But what I'm doing with Race to Speak Up is because I want people to, I think everything starts with a conversation. Or really, in reality, everything really starts with being able to acknowledge the fact that there's a problem and then going into the open conversation. But I think everything starts with the open conversation about topics like this, the topics that affect so many different communities. So in my workshops, I'm saying, all right, everyone, really, I just first start off by going through, okay, here's what bullying is, here's what it can look like, here are the different characters of bullying. There's the target, there's the bully themselves, there's the assistant of bullying, and then there's also the bystander, someone who stands off to the side and doesn't do anything to help the target. And so with my workshops, I'm having a lot of different facts and components come up. And then I'm also doing like quite asking the audience, okay, what do you think about this? What can we do? And it leads into an open conversation. There's literally have been times where it almost felt like group therapy because people were just continuously telling everyone, not just me, about their bullying experiences, about what they've gone through, or even what they've continued to go through. There's been multiple times where this next thing that I'm about to say has happened, but I specifically remember one time where a kid literally said to me, Devin, I was a bully. And so from there, that opened up a whole new conversation because, how do you handle that? How do you handle these things? So open conversations can go a long way. I was able to ask that student, he was comfortable with this, but ask that student about his, I guess, experience, you could say, with that, or just like why he had this mentality to really dive deep into what would be considered the bully's mindset. So there's a couple of different components, but what I do is when organizations, when schools, or when companies are calling me in to speak at their events or their places or wherever I'm speaking, I always ask them, do you want me to make it do you want me to specifically focus on cyberbullying? Do you want me to specifically focus on workplace bullying? Do you want me to specifically focus on such and such? Because there's such a range, and because I'm like, okay, I want to incorporate what's really specific to your environment, but also just I can also make it broad overall to encompass everyone because we need to encompass all types of people. So that's just kind of a little background on, I guess, a lot of what bullying incorporates. But it's like bullying isn't, like I'm continuously saying, it's really not just one thing. It can happen online, and it has been happening a lot more online ever since the start of the pandemic. It's increased. Last time I checked, it was 67, was it seven? No, it was over 70%. See, I had to think about that too. Over 70%, which is alarming and devastating, traumatizing, and terrifying. A lot of words I just said in that sentence. So, what we're doing is we're really working to lessen the amount of bullying that happens in our schools, our communities, our workplaces, etc.
I'm so proud of you. As I'm listening to you
Oh,
speak,
thank you.
first of all, you got psychology written all over you. You have this gift to number one, something that you said before you go and speak somewhere, you find out what your audience makeup is about, right? Because you don't want to talk about workplace bullying and the audience has been focusing on cyberbullying, right? So you are making your workshops be tailored to the audience, which is important. But I also liked how you talked about someone was comfortable enough to raise their hand and say, hey, I was the bully, right? I was the one that was bullying others. And I honestly would wish that more bullies would speak up because they need some help. Especially, I work in healthcare. And as an African American woman, Black woman working in healthcare, I oftentimes walk in the room. First of all, Lisa Campbell, if we didn't have LinkedIn, right, and social media, Lisa Campbell is not necessarily a Black name, right? So sometimes, and I've experienced this before, I've gone on interviews and they couldn't see me. But then I walked in and they were all excited. They had all this stuff set up. And then when I got there, it was a little different. Not everyone on the team that I was interviewing with was as excited as they were. We were communicating via email. This was before social media, right? Because right now you could just Google me and I come up. But that type of interaction that I've had in healthcare is real. A lot of times I go to meetings and I'm the only Black person in the meeting. But guess what? I'm always smiling. I'm confident. And I show up as my authentic self no matter where you see me. And so I'm not intimidated by that. But there are so many others in the workplace that every day they dread going to work because of bullying. And with a lot of us working from home, they're experiencing bullying in a virtual environment where their manager is berating them on, calls with others. And so then they get off these calls, being on Zoom or Teams, and they're depressed. They are turning to drugs and alcohol and having suicidal ideation, homicidal ideations. And that's not how life was supposed to be. So, what
Exactly.
about bullying in college? Is there some bullying in college?
Well, luckily, I haven't gone through bullying in college, but I know that there are different excuse me, different universities, different colleges that are, for example, predominantly one race. So anything like, because since we're going back to, or kind of like going back to our conversation about race, where it's predominantly one race, and then anyone who's outside of that race is made to feel the other because they're the only ones that are other races, whether they're Black or Hispanic or whatever the case is. So that could turn into a moment or breeding grounds for racial bullying more specifically, where it could also be cyberbullying. I'd say in those instances, it would probably be more so those types of things. Or if it's a school that's homophobic or transphobic, then if you're anything that's a part of the queer community and quote clearly a part of the queer community, and I'm going based off of other people who have said this to me, if they can quote see it, then it turns into, okay, well, these homophobic individuals, these transphobic, excuse me, individuals are going to want to target that person and unfortunately hate crime these people. I feel like in college, I feel like oftentimes it tends to be bigger things, but I know people can definitely combat me on that. I was saying bigger instances of hate, but I also know microaggressions are a thing. Those smaller acts of racism, but also it could just be small acts of any form of hate. Those are a lot of things that do tend to happen, and not even just college, but also in just schools, because it's like, okay, the teacher, if it's in high school or middle school, the teacher has a bunch of students, so they might not see you. Or if it's in college, you're a lot more on your own. So you would have to go out of the way to report it. But it's like, okay, does the university really handle that? But there's a lot of different components with college bullying. I have spoken to college students before. More specifically, I was giving them a youth entrepreneurship presentation, but it opened up the conversation of, okay, how can we even be a part of the positive change that puts an end to any form of hate? And then they just started to come up with different solutions. They're like, what if we start a club? What if we host an event and partner with diversity, equity, and inclusion themes organizations? And I'm always to that one. Or if it's something kind of just along the lines of let's just do something simple in class and maybe work with a professor so that we can get credit for this. Those are the types of solutions that I want people to think of especially when listening to me. Those are the types of things I want people to just randomly like have some form of a thought on when listening to me. So I hope that I'm not sure if that fully answered your question because I know you was just specifically talking about bullying in college, but I kind of was trying to incorporate a couple of things. So let me know if I should say any more on that though.
No, you know what? One of the things, again, I love about your generation. So you did answer my question, but you gave more, and our listening and viewing audience needed the more. So whenever you're in a situation and you see that more is needed, use your voice. My first author for this 52 weeks, 52 series was Dr. Nisa Jenkins, and her book is Speak Up, I Can't Hear You. And what would you say to a young person in elementary school that may not recognize they're being bullied, but what would you say to them are some of the signs to help them understand that they're truly being bullied?
First, I think I would give them the proper vocabulary. In elementary school or even middle school too, I know they don't always have the vocabulary. That's why earlier I mentioned with my book, it's introducing new vocabulary, like being an upstander. But if it's way younger ages, like elementary, I would first either physically show them how it feels through like maybe crushing paper and like saying, okay, say rude things to it, and then like opening it back up. I saw that exercise on TikTok where you open it back up, you still see it's kind of crumpled, and then that shows that bullying affects you in the long run. but like kind of give smaller examples of what being mad can feel like, what being sad can feel like. And then saying if someone repeatedly is going or continuously is going out of their way to make you feel this way, and if you can tell that it's on purpose, but regardless, if they're making you feel that way, then this could be a sign of bullying. I'm not gonna lie, it could be a sign of bullying. Kind of really go back and see what the child is feeling. Because, there are times where it's written all over their faces. I know there's even children who have a hard time showing things, but a lot of the time, kids be showing a lot of their emotions. So it's like you can just look at them. And I'm very big on body language, and I've learned more about body language because I've been ever since I was 14 working with Race to Speak Up and speaking to so many people. So not only am I able to dissect the child's body language, but also an adult. So I'm like, okay, if a child clearly is going through something, like you can always see whenever I'm speaking what resonates with who. Their faces usually light up and not in a good way. It's like they're frightened. So yeah, exactly like that. So kind of you as a presenter can also take a look at the child and see what's going on, then use symbolism to educate them on what bullying can make you feel like. And again, if you are feeling this way, then you need to speak up and then give them examples of what speaking up in their age group or in their community can look like.
I love it. I love it. I have really enjoyed having this conversation with you. And before we run out of time, there's a couple of things I want you to do. First, tell everyone where they can purchase their own copy of the book, and not just for them, right? It could be where maybe their aunt, uncle, just someone that knows someone that can benefit from the book. Even if you don't see the signs could be there, and it's a quick read, right? Children can read it. It's really cute pictures. FYI, I didn't know what an upstander was. I was like, oh, I learned something new again, because we don't know all things, right? Nobody knows everything. So tell everyone how they can find their own copy of the book.
Yeah, of course. So the best place to get my book is on my website, racetospeakup.com, and I always spell it out. So RACETOSPEAKUP.com. It's on the shop page. That way, if you want me to sign it, I can sign it. So it's a lot easier on both our ends. Make a little special note or whatever the case is. Did you get it on my web? Wait,
No,
actually, I
I
have to
got it.
check. Did you?
I got it on Amazon.
Yeah, that's why I didn't sign it. Otherwise, I would have remembered it too. So, but yes, yes. So you can get it on my website. That's the best and easiest, and I think fastest also way that you can get my book. And also, if you want to bring my workshops, my Race to Speak Up Against Bullying workshops to your communities, feel free to look at my website so you can actually see what I offer and what's in them, and also my Devin Speaks Up book readings and youth entrepreneurship presentations. It's all on my website. Then you reach out to me. I set up a Zoom call or we set up a Zoom call, and then we go from there to see about how I can get to your community or how I can bring my programs to your community. So that's that. And then also, as far as social media, it's all at Race to Speak Up and then at author Devin Moore for my, book stuff. And that's on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. Just look it up and you'll see it. And yeah.
On all the social media sites. Social media is the way to go. When I grew up, I did a lot of reading, right? We didn't have social media, TikTok. I think our first type of, and you probably never even heard of this, our first exposure to like social online was like MySpace. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's an old thing, but we have all these things that we can reach out to others. So I want to say thank you so much for number one, sharing your story. I'm excited about your future. I'm going to be in the background monitoring, because the other things that I'm doing with 52 Authors, 52 Weeks is I want to see a year from now, 5 years from now, where are we, right? Because 52 authors across the globe sharing their story with others across the globe, we definitely will have a huge impact. So it has been a pleasure having you here. I wish you nothing but the entrepreneurship, because you need to make your
Yeah.
own money on your own terms.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for having me.